My mother-in-law has despised me for 6 years. So when she drunk called me at 2 in the morning, sobbing apologies and whispering that my husband was not who I thought he was, I froze. The line went dead before I could answer. 6 hours later, my husband threw divorce papers on our marble counter, sneering that his mother had told him everything. He had no idea she had actually handed me the weapon to destroy him. My name is Harper, and up until 2 in the morning last night, I thought I had my life under control. I am 34 years old, the creative director at Prism Line, one of the most prestigious architectural firms in Boston, and I am used to solving complex problems with clean lines and structural integrity. But nothing in my career could have prepared me for the chaos that erupted from a single phone call. The ringtone shattered the silence of the master bedroom, sharp and insistent. I groaned, rolling over to check the time. It was exactly 2 in the morning. My heart hammered against my ribs when I saw the name flashing on the screen. Mrs. Evelyn, my mother-in-law. For 6 years, Evelyn had made it her personal mission to remind me that I was not good enough for her son. She was a woman of ice and etiquette, someone who would sooner swallow glass than call me at a reasonable hour, let alone in the middle of the night. I sat up, my hand trembling slightly as I swiped to answer, fully expecting a lecture about some perceived slight or a family emergency. "Hello," I whispered, trying not to wake Liam beside me. "Harper." The voice on the other end was unrecognizable. It was slurred, thick with alcohol and heavy with tears. Is that you, Evelyn? Are you okay?" I asked, my confusion instantly replacing my annoyance. "I'm sorry," she sobbed, the sound jagged and raw. "I'm so sorry for hating you. I was wrong. I was so wrong." I froze. This was not the woman who criticized my choice of curtains or made subtle digs about my pedigree. This was a broken woman. "Evelyn, where are you?" "You sound—" She cut me off, her voice dropping to a terrified whisper. She tricked me. I didn't know." "Who tricked you, Evelyn? You're scaring me." "Liam," she choked out, her breath hitching. He isn't who you think he is." "Harper, he sold it." "Sold what, Evelyn?" The line went dead. I stared at the darkened screen, the silence of the room pressing in on me. I tried to call her back immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again. Nothing. I lay back down, but sleep was impossible. My mind raced, trying to decipher her drunken ramblings. He sold it. What did that mean, and why was she apologizing by the time the sun bled through the sheer curtains? I was a wreck of nerves. I walked out to the kitchen, intending to make strong coffee and confront Liam about his mother's bizarre behavior, but the scene that awaited me stopped me cold. Liam was there, fully dressed in his sharpest suit, standing by the island. A large suitcase sat by the door. He looked up as I entered, his face a mask of cold indifference. Without a word, he picked up a thick yellow envelope and tossed it onto the kitchen island. The heavy paper slapped against the Calicut gold marble the stone I had paid for with my bonus last year. "I want a divorce," Liam said. His voice was steady, devoid of any emotion. "Immediately." I blinked, certain I was hallucinating from lack of sleep. "What, Liam? What are you talking about?" He let out a short, cruel laugh. "Don't play dumb. Harper, it doesn't suit you. I'm not playing anything. What is going on?" He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "My mother called you last night. I saw the call log." "Yes, she called me at 2 in the morning. She was drunk, and she told you." "Didn't she?" Liam interrupted, his voice rising. "She was wasted, and she spilled her guts. She told you everything." I opened my mouth to speak, but the realization hit me like a physical blow. Liam wasn't leaving because he fell out of love. He was leaving because he thought I knew something. He thought Evelyn had exposed a secret, a specific damning secret, but I didn't know anything. All I had was a drunken apology and a confusing sentence about him selling something. Liam, I save it, he sneered. Since you decided to breach my trust and poison my mother against me, I am taking what is mine. I want 50% of our assets, and I am keeping this penthouse. This penthouse, I asked, my voice trembling with rage. I paid for this apartment, I pay the mortgage, and I am your husband, he spat back. Or I was. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't try to fight me on this, Harper. You will lose. He grabbed his coat and walked out the door without looking back. The heavy thud of the door closing echoed through the sprawling apartment. I stood alone in the kitchen, my hands gripping the cold edge of the marble counter. My shock was rapidly cooling into something sharper, something dangerous. Liam had just tipped his hand. He thought he was escaping a sinking ship, but he had just confirmed that there was a hole in the hull. Evelyn hadn't just drunk called me. She had given me a loose thread. And looking at the yellow envelope on the table, I knew I was going to pull on that thread until his entire life unraveled. I sat alone on the velvet sofa, the silence in the penthouse deafening now that the door had slammed shut on my marriage. The yellow envelope lay on the marble island like a crime scene evidence marker. For 6 years, I had been the spine of this family, the one who worked 60-hour weeks to fund this lifestyle, while Liam played the role of the visionary entrepreneur. I looked around the room. I had paid for everything: the Italian leather furniture, the art on the walls, even the car Liam drove to his client meetings. I thought about the debts I had quietly cleared for him, thousands of dollars he claimed were lost in unpredictable market fluctuations for his tech startups. Deep down, I knew they were gambling debts, but I had swallowed my pride and paid them to keep the peace. And for what? To be treated like an interloper by his mother. Evelyn. Evelyn had never let me forget that I came from a working-class neighborhood. She treated my success as a vulgar accident. She had always made it clear she preferred Chloe, the adopted daughter of her best friend. Chloe was old money, poised, and according to Evelyn, the perfect match for Liam. Liam had always laughed it off, wrapping an arm around me and telling me Chloe was just like a sister to him. I stood up and paced the living room, my mind replaying Liam's exit. His aggression had been a cover. I had seen the look in his eyes when he mentioned the phone call. It was panic, pure, unadulterated terror. He had fled not because he was angry, but because he was afraid. She knows, he had said. He was convinced Evelyn had spilled the secret, but all she had said was that he had sold it. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. As a precaution for my work as a director, I had an app installed that automatically recorded all incoming calls from unsaved or specific flagged numbers. Since Evelyn's number was saved but rarely used, the app had treated the late-night timing as an anomaly and triggered the recording. I sat back down, my finger hovering over the play button. I needed to hear it again, not with the fog of sleep, but with the sharp clarity of suspicion. I pressed play. Evelyn's voice filled the room, tinny and distorted. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for hating you. I turned the volume up to the maximum. I closed my eyes, blocking out the visual noise of the apartment to focus entirely on the audio. I listened past Evelyn's sobbing. There was a background noise I had missed the first time. It was a rhythmic, mechanical sound. Beep, beep, beep. It was steady and high-pitched. Then, I heard it. A voice in the background, muffled but distinct. Hang up. Put the phone down. You old hag. My eyes snapped open. That was not a nurse. That was not a stranger. The pitch, the cadence, it was undeniable. It was Chloe. The woman Liam swore was just a platonic family friend was there, at 2 a.m, screaming at his mother. I rewound the audio and listened again. The rhythmic beeping was too precise to be an alarm clock. It sounded exactly like a heart monitor. Evelyn wasn't calling from her home. She was in a hospital. My blood ran cold. If Chloe was with her and Liam was terrified, something catastrophic was happening. I needed to know where she was. Evelyn always went to the same private facility, St. Jude's Medical Center, for her migraines, which I knew were just hangovers. I dialed the main line of St. Jude's, my voice shifting instantly into a professional, authoritative tone. "Good morning. This is Sarah, the private nurse for the Harper Vane family. I am trying to coordinate a medication transfer for Mrs. Evelyn Vane, but I need to confirm her current room number and status. The family is quite distressed." The receptionist hesitated. "One moment. Let me check the system." I held my breath, my knuckles white as I gripped the phone. "Yes, Mrs. Vane was admitted late last night," the receptionist said. "She is in the ICU, room 304. But ma'am, I show here that visitors are restricted. I understand," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Can you tell me the reason for admission? I need to know if it conflicts with her heart medication. It says here she was brought in for acute toxicity, alcohol combined with a high dose of sedatives. She is currently comatose." "Comatose," I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "Yes, she hasn't regained consciousness since admission." I thanked her and hung up. The silence returned, but now it felt charged with electricity. Evelyn was in a coma. Chloe was there when it happened. And Liam was trying to divorce me and seize my assets before the dust settled. They thought Evelyn was out of the game. They thought she was silenced, but they had made one critical mistake. They had let her make one last phone call. And now, I was going to finish the conversation. I pulled my coat tighter around myself as I walked through the sliding glass doors of St. Jude's Medical Center. The antiseptic smell hit me instantly, sharp and cold. I did not go to the reception desk this time. I knew where I was going. I took the stairs to the 3rd floor, moving quietly, my senses on high alert. When I reached the ICU corridor, I froze. Liam was there, standing near the nurse's station. He was not grieving. He was arguing. His face was flushed, his hands chopping the air aggressively as he berated a tired-looking doctor. Beside him stood Chloe. She was dabbing at her dry eyes with a tissue, performing the role of the devastated family friend with nauseating precision. I stepped back into the alcove of a waiting area, pressing myself against the wall. I needed to hear what they were saying. "I am her son," Liam's voice carried down the hall, sharp and impatient. "I need access to her room. Has the old woman woken up yet? She needs to sign the power of attorney before it is too late." My stomach turned. He was not worried about her recovery. He was worried about a signature. Chloe placed a hand on his arm, leaning in close. I strained to hear her whisper, her voice hissing like steam escaping a valve. "Keep your voice down." "Liam," she snapped, her facade dropping instantly. What if she told Harper? What if she told her about the trust fund? If she talks, we will lose. We will lose everything. The pieces clicked into place with a terrifying snap. A trust fund. This was not just about my assets or the penthouse. Liam was trying to seize control of a family fortune I did not even know existed, and Evelyn was the only thing standing in his way. The doctor said something firm about visiting hours and patient stability, then walked away. Liam ran a hand through his hair, looking like a caged animal. "Let's go get food," Liam muttered to Chloe. "I can't stand staring at these machines. We will come back in an hour when the shift changes." I held my breath as they walked past my hiding spot, their footsteps fading down the hall. The moment the elevator doors dinged and closed, I moved. I walked straight to room 304. The door was slightly ajar. I slipped inside and closed it softly behind me. The room was dim, lit only by the glowing monitors. Evelyn looked small in the hospital bed, her usually impeccable hair matted against the pillow, tubes ran from her arms, and the rhythmic beeping I had heard on the phone filled the air. I approached the bed slowly. Evelyn. Her eyelids fluttered. Slowly, painfully, she opened her eyes. They were glassy and unfocused, but when they landed on me, they widened in recognition. Tears immediately pooled in the corners of her eyes. She tried to lift her hand, her fingers twitching against the sheets. I took her hand. It was cold. "I am here," I whispered. "I know they did this to you." She squeezed my hand with surprising strength. Her lips moved, dry and cracked. She was trying to speak. I leaned down, bringing my ear close to her mouth. "Safe." She wheezed, her voice barely a ghost of a sound. "Safe. Bank. Oil painting. Fake." I pulled back slightly, looking at her. The oil painting, the one in Liam's office. She blinked, tears tracking down her temples. "Yes. Behind. Key. He stole it." My mind flashed to the ugly abstract oil painting hanging in Liam's home office. He had always been irrationally protective of it, forbidding me from ever moving it or cleaning near it, claiming it was a fragile antique he had picked up at an auction. I had always thought it was just bad taste. I never realized it was a hiding place. "I understand," I said, gripping her hand tight. "I am going to fix this. Rest now." I checked the time. I had been there less than 5 minutes. I needed to be gone before Liam returned. I slipped out of the room, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. As I walked briskly toward the exit, the hypothesis formed in my mind with crystal clarity. Liam was hiding assets. He was likely laundering money or hoarding documents behind that painting, preparing to cut me loose and live off the stolen trust fund with Chloe. I pushed through the hospital doors into the bright daylight and immediately pulled out my phone. I dialed a number I hadn't called in years, but one I knew by heart. "Marcus," I said the moment he answered. "Harper." His voice was warm, surprised. "It has been a long time. Is everything okay?" "No," I said, walking fast toward my car. "I need you to do something for me, and I need it done quietly. I need a full forensic investigation into Liam's finances for the last 2 years. Every transaction, every withdrawal, every shell company. I am going to destroy him, Marcus, and I need you to help me load the gun." I stood before the double oak doors of Liam's home office. He had always called this room his creative sanctuary, forbidding me from entering under the guise that my energy disrupted his flow state. In reality, it was just a locked room where he could hide his failures. I didn't bother looking for the spare key. I went to the utility closet, grabbed a hammer, and with one precise, violent swing, I smashed the lock mechanism. The wood splintered, and the door swung open. The room smelled of stale cologne and secrets. I walked straight to the wall behind his desk where the ugly abstract oil painting hung. Evelyn was right. It was a garish mess of colors that Liam claimed was an investment piece. I lifted the heavy frame off the hook and flipped it over. My breath hitched. Taped securely to the back of the canvas was a small silver filing cabinet key and a strip of paper with a 6-digit code written in Liam's jagged handwriting. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was an email from Marcus. The subject line read, "Urgent financial discrepancies." I opened the attachment, scanning the forensic accounting summary. The numbers were staggering. For the last 2 years, Liam had been making daily withdrawals from our joint savings account. They were small enough to avoid immediate detection. $200 here, $300 there, but cumulatively, they amounted to over $150,000. The destination for all these transfers was a single entity, Blue Sky Holdings. I scrolled down to the ownership registry Marcus had dug up. The sole proprietor of Blue Sky Holdings was not Liam. It was Chloe. You absolute parasite," I whispered to the empty room. I was not just supporting my husband. I was financing his mistress's lifestyle. I turned my attention back to the desk. I used the small silver key I had found behind the painting to unlock the bottom drawer of his mahogany desk. It slid open with a smooth glide. Inside, stacked neatly, were the papers that would seal his fate. The first document was a deed. It was a second mortgage taken out on Evelyn's house. I scanned the signatures. Evelyn's signature was there, but it was shaky, wrong. It was a forgery. Liam had leveraged his mother's paid-off home to secure a loan for $300,000, likely to dump into more fake investments or to funnel into Chloe's shell company. Evelyn had no idea she was on the brink of homelessness. But the second file was the one that turned my blood to ice. It was a medical folder from St. Jude's Cardiology Department, dated 6 months ago. I opened it. The diagnosis was highlighted in yellow end-stage heart failure. I read the doctor's notes. Patient is advised to strictly avoid alcohol and stress. Consumption of alcohol combined with current medication will lead to rapid cardiac deterioration and potential fatal arrhythmia. I dropped the file on the desk, my hands trembling. Liam knew. Chloe knew. They knew Evelyn was dying. And yet, every time we went over for dinner, I watched Liam pour his mother a generous glass of wine. I watched Chloe encourage her to take one more sip to relax. They weren't just waiting for her to die. They were accelerating the process. The pieces of the puzzle slammed together. The 2 in the morning phone call wasn't just a drunken ramble. Evelyn must have been drifting in and out of consciousness at the hospital or perhaps at home before they moved her. She must have overheard them. She heard them talking about the trust fund, about the house, and likely about pulling the plug the moment she slipped into a coma. Evelyn had called me because, in a moment of terrifying clarity, she realized the truth. For 6 years, she had treated me like dirt, yet I was the one who set up her pill organizers. I was the one who bought her the heated blanket for her arthritis. I was the one who cared. She knew, I said aloud, the realization settling over me like a heavy coat. She knew you were going to kill her. The fear that had been gripping me since the morning evaporated. In its place, a cold, hard resolve took root. I looked at the pile of evidence on the desk, the theft, the forgery, the attempted murder. I picked up my phone and dialed Marcus again. Harper, he answered on the first ring. I found it. Marcus, I said, my voice frighteningly calm. I found everything, the shell company, the forged mortgage, and medical records they hid. Okay, Marcus said, his tone shifting to professional urgency. We have enough for a restraining order and a freeze on the assets. We can file for divorce on the grounds of no. I interrupted. I don't just want a divorce. Marcus, I want a criminal prosecutor. I want to see him in handcuffs. Harper, that is a long road. Are you sure he tried to kill his mother for money? Marcus, I said, staring at the face of the man I married in a framed photo on the desk. He is not walking away with half my assets. He is not walking away at all. I heard the distinct click of the front door unlocking. I had exactly 5 seconds to set the stage. I ruffled my hair to make it look disheveled, rubbed my eyes until they were red and puffy, and slumped onto the sofa, clutching a handful of crumpled tissues. When Liam walked in, he found exactly what he wanted to see: a broken, defeated woman. He stopped in the entryway, looking at me with a mixture of annoyance and pity. I am just here to get my golf clubs and a few suits, he said, not bothering to close the door behind him. I let out a ragged, theatrical sob. Liam, please, you can't just leave. Is this because I couldn't give you a baby? Liam sighed, rolling his eyes as he walked past me toward the bedroom. I followed him, keeping my posture hunched and small. It isn't just about the baby. Harper, he said, throwing shirts into a duffel bag. Look at you. You are so cold. You are married to your job. You treat our life like a spreadsheet. I worked hard for us. I stammered, injecting a tremor into my voice. That is the point, he snapped, turning to face me. You are obsessed with control. Chloe. She understands me. She knows how to make a man feel like a man, not an employee. The mention of her name made bile rise in my throat, but I forced more tears. This was the narcissist's anthem: blame the victim for his own betrayal. I can change, I pleaded, grabbing his arm. He shook me off. It is too late, he said. My lawyer is drafting the papers. Do not make this difficult. I took a deep breath, wiping my face. Okay, if that is what you really want, I will sign whatever you want. Liam paused, his eyes lighting up. This was the victory he was waiting for. But, I added softly, I have one condition, a request. What he asked. Suspicious. I don't want our marriage to end in a lawyer's office. Can we have one last dinner? Just the two of us. Or bring Chloe if you want. I just want to end this with dignity. We can discuss the assets civilly, and I will sign the waiver for the penthouse. Liam studied me for a moment. He saw a woman who had given up. He saw an easy payday. Fine. He grunted, tomorrow night. But don't try anything stupid. I won't. I whispered, go take a shower. You smell like the hospital. He nodded and headed for the bathroom. The moment I heard the water running, my tears vanished. My face went stone cold. I walked over to the dresser where he had left his phone. I unlocked it. His passcode was still his birthday, predictably lazy, and downloaded a hidden tracking application disguised as a system file. I synced it to my phone, hid the icon, and placed the device back exactly where it was. 10 minutes later, Liam left. I watched the dot on my phone screen move away from our building. He wasn't going to a hotel. He was heading south, toward the industrial district. The dot stopped at a remote self-storage facility. Got you, I murmured. He was checking on his stash the items he had bought with the money he stole from me. While he was busy admiring his stolen goods, I grabbed the small silver key I had found behind the painting and drove to the First National Bank. The key had a number stamped on it that corresponded to a safety deposit box I had completely forgotten about. It was a joint box we opened when we first got married, one we rarely used. The bank manager ushered me into the private vault room. My hands were steady as I inserted the key and slid the long metal box out. Inside, there was no jewelry or cash. There was only a single document. It was the original last will and testament of Liam's father, who had passed away 5 years ago. I began to read, and my eyes widened with every line. The entirety of the Vane family estate shall be held in trust. The document read, title and full access shall only transfer to my son, Liam Vane, upon the completion of 10 years of lawful and happy marriage to his wife, Harper Vane. Should the marriage dissolve prior to the 10-year mark for any reason, the entirety of the estate shall be liquidated and donated to the St. Jude's charity, with a management fee of 30% of the total value awarded to Harper Vane for her years of service to the family. I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound that echoed in the vault. 10 years. We had been married for 6. Liam had hidden this will and forged a fake one because he knew he couldn't wait another 4 years. He was greedy, and Chloe had likely convinced him they could outsmart the lawyers. He thought he was about to cash out. He had no idea that by serving me divorce papers before our 10th anniversary, he wasn't just losing me. He was legally disinheriting himself. I placed the document back in the box, but not before taking a high-resolution photo of every page. You want a divorce. Liam, I whispered, closing the heavy steel lid. I am going to give you one, and it is going to cost you every single penny you think you own. My phone vibrated against the mahogany surface of the desk, shattering the silence of the room. It was a message from an unknown number. I knew immediately it was the private investigator Marcus had hired less than 6 hours ago. He worked fast. I unlocked the screen, and a series of high-definition photographs flooded my inbox. My stomach churned. They were pictures of Liam and Chloe standing in the foyer of a sprawling colonial mansion in the suburbs. In one photo, Liam was pointing at a chandelier with a proprietary air, while Chloe rubbed her lower back, looking bored. The caption below the image read, "Listing price $2.5 million. Offer pending. They were buying a mansion. With my money." But the next message made me drop the phone onto the desk. Subject B, Chloe Miller is pregnant, approximately 4 months along. Medical records indicate paternity is not Subject A, Liam Vane. Biological father is confirmed as an ex-partner currently serving time for racketeering. Subject A is unaware and believes the child is his. I let out a short, incredulous breath. Liam wasn't just a villain, he was a fool. He was destroying our marriage and potentially killing his mother to secure a future for a child that wasn't even his. He was just the bankroll. I grabbed my keys and drove back to St. Jude's. I needed to see Evelyn before Liam returned from his house hunting expedition. When I entered room 304, Evelyn was awake. She looked skeletal, her skin gray against the white sheets, but her eyes were open. When she saw me, she didn't scowl or look away as she had for the last 6 years. She looked ashamed. I pulled a chair close to the bed. "Evelyn," I said softly, "did he make you sign the papers? Did he make you sign over the authority?" She blinked slowly, a tear sliding down her cheek. She gave a barely perceptible nod. He held my hand," she rasped, her voice sounding like grinding stones. "I was so tired. The pills, they made me float. It's okay," I said, though my fury was white hot. "We are going to fix it." Evelyn tried to lift her left hand. She pointed a trembling finger at her right hand, specifically at the large, gaudy jade ring she had worn every day since I met her. It was an ugly piece of jewelry, too big and old-fashioned, but she had never taken it off. "Camera," she wheezed, her eyes pleading with me to understand. In the stone." I stared at the ring. "There is a camera inside the ring. I didn't trust the nurses," she whispered, coughing weakly. "Paranoid. Old woman. But it records. Always." My heart hammered. Evelyn's paranoia had accidentally created the ultimate surveillance device. "I am taking it." "Evelyn," I said, gently sliding the heavy ring off her thin finger. "I am going to keep it safe. And I promise you, I am going to make them pay for every single thing they did to you." She closed her eyes, exhausted, and whispered, Thank you." I drove home, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Back in the penthouse, I went straight to my tech drawer. I found a universal card reader and examined the ring. Under the large jade stone, there was a tiny, almost invisible port. I connected it to my laptop. A folder popped up titled Archive. I clicked on the most recent file, dated 2 nights ago. The video was grainy and taken from a low angle, consistent with someone's hand resting on a bedsheet, but the audio was crystal clear. "Is she out?" Chloe's voice cut through the speakers, sharp and cruel. "Yeah," Liam's voice replied. "She drank the whole glass. She is totally gone." "Good." Chloe laughed. "God, she is annoying. How long until we can pull the plug? I am tired of waiting." "Soon, babe, soon," Liam said. I could see his blurry outline pacing the room. "Once she signs the transfer, we are golden. That Harper, that stupid cow, just keeps bringing money home. She is so busy with her career she doesn't even notice I am draining the accounts." I watched, stone-faced, as Liam walked over to where Chloe was sitting. "And the best part," Liam continued, his voice dripping with arrogance, "is that she is financing our future. She is going to pay for this penthouse. She is going to pay for the new house. And she is going to pay to raise our kid." "Our kid," Chloe cooed. I slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the empty apartment. "You think she is stupid?" "Liam," I said to the silence, "you have no idea. I opened the laptop again. I didn't just watch. I copied. I made 3 separate backup files of every single video on the Ring. I sent one to an encrypted cloud server. I put one on a flash drive for the police, and I emailed the 3rd copy directly to Marcus with a subject line that read, "The Smoking Gun." The evidence was undeniable. Attempted murder. Fraud. Conspiracy. I leaned back in my chair, watching the upload bar reach 100%. The fear was gone. The sadness was gone. All that was left was the cold, mathematical certainty of his destruction. The dinner tomorrow wasn't going to be a negotiation. It was going to be an execution. The Onyx was the most exclusive restaurant in Boston, a place of dim lighting, velvet chairs, and hushed conversations about 7-figure deals. It was also where Liam and I had held our wedding reception 6 years ago. It felt poetic to bring him back here to bury the marriage in the same room where we had toasted to its birth. I stood before the full-length mirror in the master bedroom, smoothing the fabric of my dress. It was a blood-red silk gown, cut sharp across the chest and flowing like liquid fire down to my ankles. Liam had always forbidden me from wearing red. He called it vulgar and too loud, claiming it made me look desperate for attention. He preferred me in beige, in pastels, in colors that faded into the background. Tonight, I did not want to fade. I wanted to burn. I checked my phone one last time before leaving. The spyware I had installed on Liam's phone earlier was working perfectly. A new text message notification popped up on my screen. A conversation between him and Chloe. She wants a farewell dinner. God, she is so pathetic. Liam had written, "She is probably going to beg me to stay. Let's just go, eat on her dime, and get the papers signed." "I'll wear the blue dress," Chloe had replied. "It shows off the bump." I smiled at my reflection, a cold, humorless expression. They thought they were walking into a surrender. They were walking into a slaughter. I arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes early and was escorted to the private VIP room I had reserved. I sat at the head of the long table, my back straight, my hands folded on the pristine white tablecloth. At 7 o'clock sharp, the door opened. Liam walked in first, wearing a suit I had bought him for his last birthday. Beside him was Chloe, looking smug and clinging to his arm like a trophy. She was wearing a tight blue dress, and her hand rested protectively over her lower stomach, caressing a pregnancy bump that was barely visible. Trailing behind them was a man I assumed was Liam's lawyer, a sweaty, nervous-looking man clutching a briefcase. "You are late," I said, not standing up. "Traffic," Liam muttered, pulling out a chair for Chloe. He looked at my dress, and his lip curled in distaste. "You are wearing that I told you I hate that color." "I stopped caring about what you hate about 6 hours ago." "Liam," I replied smoothly. "Sit down." The lawyer cleared his throat, opening his briefcase with shaky hands. "Mrs. Vane, perhaps we should skip the pleasantries. My client wants this resolved quickly." He slid a thick stack of documents across the table toward me. "The terms are outlined clearly here." The lawyer said, "We are asking for 60% of all marital assets, including all liquid savings currently in your name. Additionally, Mr. Vane requires full ownership of the penthouse to be transferred to him immediately upon the divorce decree." I looked at the papers, then up at Liam. He was leaning back in his chair, swirling his water glass, looking bored. 60%, I asked. "And the apartment I paid for. Consider it alimony for the years I supported your emotional instability." Liam sneered. "And for the breach of trust with my mother." I didn't pick up the pen. Instead, I raised my hand to the waiter standing in the shadows. "We will have a bottle of the 1982 Chateau Margaux," I said calmly. "And 4 glasses." Liam frowned. "Harper, stop wasting time. I am not drinking with you." "Oh, you will need a drink," I said. When the wine was poured, I took a slow sip, letting the rich flavor coat my tongue. I looked from Liam to Chloe, then to the lawyer. "Are you sure I asked?" My voice low and steady. Are you absolutely sure you want to sign this paper right here, right now? Because once you sign it, there is no going back. Liam slammed his hand on the table, the loud bang making the silverware jump. Chloe flinched. Sign the damn papers. Harper, he shouted, his face turning red. Stop stalling. You know I deserve this. My mother. She told you what I am worth. She told you everything. I set my wine glass down with a soft click. The room was deadly silent. Yes, I said, meeting his eyes. She did tell me. And she also recorded everything. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the large, heavy jade ring. The green stone caught the light of the chandelier. I placed it gently in the center of the table, right on top of the divorce papers. Liam froze. His eyes locked onto the ring, and the color drained from his face so fast it looked like he had been slapped. He knew that ring. He knew Evelyn never took it off. What? He stammered, his voice trembling. What is that doing here? Evelyn sends her regards, I said coldly, and her evidence. The air in the room grew heavy, suffocating, and charged with electricity. The trap was sprung. I did not say a word. I simply pulled out my phone and tapped the screen mirroring button I had set up with the maitre d' before they arrived. The large, black, flat-screen television mounted on the wall of the VIP room flickered to life. The audio filled the room instantly, sharp and damning. On the screen, a shaky video feed showed Liam pacing around a hospital room. He looked impatient, checking his watch. She is taking forever to die. Liam's voice boomed through the restaurant's speakers. I need that signature. Chloe, if she wakes up and calls Harper, we are screwed. Just pull the plug if it gets too risky. Chloe's voice replied, followed by a cruel giggle. Who is going to know she is just a useless old drunk? In the room. The blood drained from Liam's face so completely that he looked like a wax figure. Chloe let out a small, strangled gasp, her hand jerking spasmodically. Her wine glass tipped over, sending a dark red stain spreading across the pristine white tablecloth like a pool of blood. Turn it off, Liam screamed, jumping from his chair. Turn it off right now. Sit down, I commanded, my voice cutting through his panic like a whip. I am not finished. I swiped the screen on my phone. A spreadsheet appeared on the TV. It was the forensic accounting report from Blue Sky Holdings. $150,000, I said, pointing at the screen. Stolen from our joint accounts in increments of $200 and $300, funneled directly into a shell company owned by your mistress. That is grand larceny. Liam, and since you used the mail system to set up the LLC, it is also mail fraud. Liam's lawyer, who had been sweating before, was now pale. He closed his briefcase with a definitive snap and stood up, pulling the stack of divorce papers back toward him. You didn't tell me this, the lawyer stammered, looking at Liam with disgust. I represent clients in civil disputes. Mr. Vane, I do not participate in fraud or elder abuse. I am terminating my counsel effective immediately. Sit down, Liam yelled at him, desperate. She is lying. She is manipulating the data. I am just getting started, I said calmly. I swiped again. The image of his father's original will appeared. I zoomed in on the paragraph regarding the trust fund. You tried to hide this, didn't you? I asked. Your father knew you were reckless. He knew you were greedy. That is why he added the 10-year clause. You only get the money if you stay happily married to me for 10 years. I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. We have been married for 6 years. Liam, if you divorce me today, you get nothing. The entire estate goes to charity. You played yourself. Liam looked like he was having a stroke. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Then, his shock turned into blind rage. You set me up, he shrieked, slamming his fists onto the table. You trapped me. You knew all along, no, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper that was louder than his screaming. I didn't know anything until 2 days ago. I didn't know until your mother called me at 2 in the morning. You thought that call was your victory. That call was your death sentence." I turned my gaze to Chloe. She was shaking, her hands clutching her stomach, tears streaming down her face. She looked terrified, not of me, but of the situation imploding around her. And congratulations on the baby. "Chloe," I said, my tone shifting to mock sweetness, "I am sure you are very excited." She looked up, eyes wide. It is a shame about the father, though," I continued. Liam looked confused. "What, I am the father?" I laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. "Oh, Liam, you really don't pay attention to your own medical history. Do you? Remember that severe case of mumps you had last year? The one that hospitalized you?" I pulled a piece of paper from my clutch, a lab result I had rushed just hours ago using a sample from his unwashed coffee mug at the apartment. "I had your DNA tested against the sample from the mug you left in the sink," I said. "Secondary infertility. You are sterile. Liam, your sperm count is 0. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavier than the air in a tomb. Liam slowly turned his head toward Chloe. His eyes were wide, wild, and dangerous. "You said," his voice was a guttural growl, You said it was mine." Chloe shrank back in her chair, her face crumbling. "Liam, I can explain. He was just a friend." "A friend," Liam roared. "It isn't mine, I watched them. The predator turning on the parasite." The show was over. The destruction was complete. The realization hit Liam like a physical blow. The man who had spent the last hour trying to destroy me was now staring at the woman he destroyed his marriage for, and he saw nothing but a parasite. His face twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. You lying witch," Liam screamed, lunging across the table. He didn't care about the fine china or the crystal glasses. He grabbed Chloe by the shoulders, shaking her violently. Chloe shrieked, shielding her stomach, her eyes wide with terror as the man she thought was her golden ticket turned into a monster. "You told me it was mine," he roared, spittle flying from his mouth. "I ruined my life for you. I killed my mother for you before he could strike her." The door to the private room burst open. 2 large security guards, whom I had instructed to wait just outside for a signal, rushed in. They didn't hesitate. One of them grabbed Liam in a chokehold, hauling him off Chloe and slamming him face first onto the plush carpet. "Get off me," Liam yelled, thrashing against their grip. "Do you know who I am?" "We know exactly who you are," a deep voice said from the doorway. It was not the waiter. It was a uniformed police officer. Flanked by 2 detectives, Marcus stepped out from behind them, looking grim but satisfied. The lead detective stepped forward, pulling a pair of handcuffs from his belt. He hauled Liam up, forcing his hands behind his back. The metallic click of the cuffs locking was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. "Liam Vane," the detective said, his voice filling the room. "You are under arrest for grand larceny, forgery, mail fraud, and attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent." Chloe, seeing the ship sinking, tried to slip away during the chaos. She grabbed her purse and edged toward the door, her face pale. "Not so fast." "Ms. Miller," a female officer said, stepping in her path. "We have questions for you regarding the shell company Blue Sky Holdings and your involvement in the conspiracy to defraud Mrs. Evelyn Vane. You are coming with us." I didn't do anything," Chloe cried, her voice rising to a hysterical pitch. "He made me do it. I am pregnant. You can't arrest a pregnant woman. Tell it to the judge," the officer said, taking her by the arm. I stood up slowly, smoothing the red silk of my dress. I walked around the table to where Liam was being held. He looked pathetic now, his hair disheveled, his suit rumpled, tears of panic streaming down his face. I reached into my bag and pulled out the divorce papers. I held them up so he could see the bold text at the top. "Here is the divorce you wanted." "Liam," I said, "I already signed it, but I made a few edits to your lawyer's draft. You get 0% of the assets. You get 0% of the house. You leave this marriage with exactly what you brought into it." "Nothing." Liam's eyes were wild, darting from me to the police. He realized there was no way out. The arrogance evaporated, replaced by a desperate, sniveling cowardice. "Harper, Harper, please." He sobbed, his voice cracking. "Baby, listen to me. She bewitched me. Chloe. She twisted my mind. And my mother. She hated you. She made me think you were the enemy. I love you. Harper, please, tell them it was a mistake. Don't let them take me." I looked down at him. I felt nothing. No love. No hate. Just the hollow indifference one feels when looking at a piece of trash on the sidewalk. I picked up the bottle of Chateau Margaux, worth nearly $2,000. It was still half full. "You wanted a toast?" Liam, I asked. I tilted the bottle. The dark red wine poured out, splashing onto his polished shoes and pooling on the floor around his knees. He flinched, watching the expensive liquid soak into the carpet. "That is all you deserve," I said softly. A stain on the floor. I turned my back on him. Behind me, I heard him screaming my name, begging, blaming everyone but himself. Until the heavy door clicked shut, silencing him. I walked through the main dining room of the Onyx, head held high, ignoring the whispers of the other diners. I walked out into the cool night air, took a deep breath, and felt lighter than I had in 6 years. I did not go home. I drove straight to St. Jude's Medical Center. When I entered room 304, the lights were dimmed. Evelyn was awake, staring at the ceiling. When she saw me, she turned her head slowly. She looked frail, but the fear that had been in her eyes earlier was gone. "It is over," I said, walking to her bedside. "They arrested him. He can't hurt you anymore. The house, the money, everything is safe." Evelyn's chin trembled. Tears welled up in her eyes and spilled over, running into her ears. She reached out her hand, her fingers seeking mine. I hesitated for a second, then took it. "I am sorry," she choked out, her voice barely a whisper. "I was such a fool. You were the only one who was real." I looked at this woman who had made my life miserable, now broken and saved by the very person she despised. I didn't forgive her. Not yet. But the war was over. "Rest now. Evelyn," I said. "We have a lot of work to do tomorrow." It has been 3 months since the night everything exploded at the Onyx. The divorce proceedings were shockingly fast. With Liam sitting in a county jail cell awaiting trial for fraud and attempted murder, and with no money to hire a defense attorney, he had no choice but to sign the papers I sent him. He is now officially my ex-husband, a man who entered our marriage with lies and left it with nothing but a prison uniform. Evelyn passed away last week. It was peaceful. Her heart simply gave out in her sleep. But before she went, she rewrote her will one last time. She left everything to me. The house, the remaining savings, the jewelry. The woman who had spent 6 years making me feel small had, in her final days, decided that I was the only family she had left. It was a strange, heavy gift, but I accepted it. Chloe is gone. The last I heard, she was fleeing the state. It turns out the rich businessman whose baby she is carrying was actually a mid-level enforcer for a loan shark ring, and when his assets were seized, his debts fell on her. She is hiding from people far scarier than the police. She wanted a life of easy money, and now she is paying a price higher than she can afford. I sold the penthouse yesterday. I could not live within those marble walls anymore. Every corner reminded me of a lie, I took the proceeds, combined with Evelyn's inheritance, and finally did what I should have done years ago. I expanded my architecture firm, hiring 3 new junior designers. I also set aside a significant portion of the money to establish the Evelyn Foundation, a charity dedicated to providing legal and medical advocacy for elderly people with no family. It felt like the right way to honor her final act of redemption. This afternoon, a letter arrived from the penitentiary. The envelope was cheap and rough. The handwriting was jagged. I knew it was from Liam. I stood in front of the gas fireplace in my new, modest apartment. I did not open it. I did not want to read his excuses or his begging. I simply tossed the sealed envelope into the flames and watched the paper curl and blacken until it was nothing but ash. I met Marcus by the Charles River an hour ago. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the water. He was not wearing his usual stiff suit. He looked relaxed, almost nervous. We walked in silence for a while, the cool breeze blowing off the water. Harper. Marcus stopped, turning to face me. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking uncharacteristically shy. I know it is too soon. I know you are just finding your footing again. But I was wondering, would you like to get dinner tonight? Not to discuss legal strategy. Just dinner. With me. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He had been there since college. He had been the one who believed me when I sounded crazy. He had been the one who handed me the weapon to fight back. I would love that, I said. And for the first time in a long time, my smile reached my eyes. As he walked ahead to get his car, I pulled out my phone. I scrolled through my contacts. I deleted Liam. I deleted Chloe. I deleted every toxic connection to the life I used to live. I stopped at the last photo in my gallery. It was a selfie I took with Evelyn in the hospital a few days before she died. She looked tired, but she was holding my hand. I kept that one. Then I put the phone away, took a deep breath of the fresh air, and walked toward the sunset. I was no longer a victim. I was no longer a wife. I was just Harper. And for the first time, the future looked entirely mine. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are tuning in from, so please leave a comment down below and let's chat. If you enjoyed seeing justice served, please subscribe to the channel Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and hit that hype button to help this story reach even more people.